Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the JL Industries RHD Kit-SPR-G1. This is a replacement single spring that is used specifically for their Diamond Series roof hatch in a 36 by 30 size is what you're going to be using this unit on. They do not recommend that this spring be used on any other roof hatch. It's not been tested. It's not been engineered or tested for that for any other application. It's a specific spring lifting mechanism for this unit. And what we'll do here is we'll start with a visual tour of all of the parts that you're going to get, and then we're going to take a look at the installation instructions and the other links that are indeed down below. So first, a visual tour. You're going to get the compression clamp tool. You're going to need this to be able to disengage or to compress the existing spring so that you can remove it from the lid and from the curb. And you'll probably certainly find it a handy tool to use to install the new material. So this tool, you're probably going to want to hang on to it if you think you're going to be in a position to have to service roof hatches in the future. And we're going to go over it when we get to the installation instructions, how it's used. Then, of course, let's start from the bottom. You're going to get your curb bracket, or your bottom boot, I suppose. This is called a curb bracket. And actually, while we go through this stuff, let's take dimensional properties. Overall width of the bracket, I think I'm holding it upside down. Overall width, about 2 1/8. Overall height, about 1 3/4 inches. Overall projection, about 1 3/4 inches. Center line of that hole is 1 3/8 inches. Okay, that's the curb bracket. Moving up, we're going to have our tubes. We're going to have our lower. Okay, going to need to get my big tool. All I did on that was put a couple of center punches through each access hole and just, grabbed on this side, stood on this side, and it just came right apart. So here are your tubes. This is the lower tube. We know that this is the lower tube, obviously, because that's going to ultimately mate to the curb bracket. Okay, let's take dimensional properties of this. Overall length, about 9 1/4. Its outside dimension, 1.878. 1.878 outside dimension. Our upper tube, that's going to work with the lid bracket. Overall length of the upper tube, about 8 3/8 or so, 8 5/16. Its outside diameter, 2.04. 2.04. The material thickness, I'm going to assume it's the same. This isn't exact, but quite close to 50 thousandths, 0.048, even though it's curved. Your lid bracket is going to be here as well. Okay. It's all going to be made of steel. Zinc, everything's made of steel, zinc coated. This would be obviously for a steel unit. Overall height of the lid bracket, about 2 1/2. Overall width, about 15 16ths, with an overall projection of about 2 7/8 to a 2 1/2 inch hole center line. Okay, now we've got the business end. We've got the magic. This unit is designed for 2 telescoping springs. This is the way that this has been engineered. Okay. I am not able to really speak expertly on spring rates, but obviously the fact that they've got 2 nested springs tells me that one more capable spring does not give them the sort of predictable behavior out of the operation of the lid that they would really need to have. So now be mindful, this clearly has a red color to it, okay? And there are manufacturers who color code their springs. And it would seem to me that JL is on that bandwagon. 15-inch overall length. Let's take the same dimensional properties. Outside diameter, 1.68 inch, 1.68 inch, a wire diameter 0.243. Now the smaller spring, that's clearly a yellow color. That's going to have an overall length about the same, 15 1/8. They did seem to be that they were even. It has an outside diameter .079 outside diameter. It's going to have a coil diameter of 0.15 inch. Okay, a couple of nested springs. You know, this material is engineered, this material is tested to work appropriately, so this is really what you're going to be looking at without deviation. Then at that point we have fasteners. We have the long fastener with its bolt, nylon lock nut. That's the lower tube is going to go through here. You're going to have the short one, which is going to be your, obviously your telescope, your upper tube, and your lid bracket with that bolt. Then you're going to get a total of thread forming sheet metal screws. You're going to need 4 for the curb bracket. Then you're going to need the rest 4. So 4 and 3 thread forming sheet metal screws. Here they are. That tip there is what makes it thread forming. That's going to be a T30 Torx, and when we hit the installation instructions in a moment, we're going to talk about everything you need. You're going to get the installation instructions. They are linked to down below here. You want to follow those exactly, especially regarding having 2 people do this work. You're going to get a container of lithium grease. You'll absolutely want to use this, and you will want to probably put disposable gloves on to get good coverage on everything. Now, let's tackle the installation instructions. Follow these instructions, it says. Okay, great. The extended description down below this video talks about the cylinders using the spring cylinder kit part number RHD-kit-SPR-G1. This kit is designed to provide lift assistance to Diamond Series roof hatches sized 36 by 30. The dimensions are always depth and then width. The hinge side is the second dimension. And since we're talking about it, your hold open bracket, when you're facing your roof hatch and it's open, if it's on the left, it will be called a left hand. They make different handing of hold open brackets and guide arms. And when we're defining what side to install it on, that's how we define that. The point that they're mentioning here, the caveat, is that the Diamond, before we get to that, the Diamond Series roof hatch part number RHDG 1WT. Other size roof hatches may require different springs based on the weight of the cover. I'll add the composition of the cover and the size of the unit. Okay, please contact customer service for further support. Absolutely. So we're going to go over a unit that's for a lifting mechanism for a single specific roof hatch. Anything outside of that, it would be you wouldn't want to assume that this is going to work, because it's very likely not going to, and I would conclude that it will not work. The way to go forward, if you are watching this video and you need help finding a replacement lifting mechanism, is the key is get the serial number off the roof hatch. Not all roof hatches have serial numbers. Some of them are so old that they did not use the serial number system at that point. Having a serial number, however, allows us to be able to contact the manufacturer and pull up the bill of materials, so we know exactly what's going on with everything. What was used, what you need. You might say, I need, the hinge, I need some gasket, I need a lifting mechanism. Okay, great. We know the serial number, we can pull that up. In the absence of a serial number, photographs of everything, the size of everything, the depth, the width, the composition of the lid. Is it steel or is it aluminum? Very different weight between the two naturally. Going to require very different lifting mechanisms naturally as well. So if you're searching for something, that's the information we're going to ask that you send us. And in fact, if you get to this part of the video, our our contact information is on the website. Send it to us. Send us everything you have, and then we'll be able to work on it intelligently. Now, as we are moving on, we're going to get into the tools that you're going to need. They want that T30 Torx bit. That's going to be for your thread forming screws. Then 2 half-inch wrenches, and that's going to be something that you're going to need to be able to get counter force on the bolts, or a couple of socket head, whatever you're going to use. I like sockets myself. And then a drill. You're going to need a drill for those brackets for the lid bracket and the curb bracket. Roof hatch springs, caution, roof hatch springs are under pressure, and a lot of it. That's where the 2-person installation comes in. You really need to make sure that when you open that lid, it stays open and it stays controlled. Please use the provided spring compression tool, and we get to demonstrate it. In essence, of course, it's going to look like that, right? And then you're going to probably need to tap the side of this with a mallet to get the tube straight. But as I, get the tube straight, I can pull it together, compress the spring, and then you'll use that tool to compress the spring. Now, moving on to the installation. Replace old cylinder and spring assembly. So the first thing is obviously to get the old stuff removed. Open the hatch lid so that the automatic hold open arm engages to hold the door open. As a safety precaution, have 2 installers there. Ensure that lid stays open. It would not be good to have it come down on you. Install the spring compression tool over the cylinders as I just demonstrated. Rotate the lever arm up to compress the cylinder before removing the bolts. Absolutely, get it compressed. Remove top bolts and nuts that attach cylinder to the lid. Remove the top bolt or bolts and nut to that attach the cylinder to the lid, so not the lid bracket yet. Carefully disengage the compression tool. So you've got the top bolt removed, still under tension. Carefully release the tension. Remove the bottom bolt and nut. That'll be the bigger portion, if you do have one. I imagine that you do. Well, you must. You're doing a diamond series. Discard the defective replacement material or replaced material. Repeat steps 2 through 7 if you've got more than one spring, which you could, because you could have a diamond series that's 36 by 96. Then you're going to have, more springs. Using the 2 half-inch wrenches, attach bottom spring housing cylinder to curb bracket using the longer bolts. So they're assuming that you're not replacing the curb bracket. Okay. So get the bottom tube installed to your curb bracket with your bolt. Position the slide the top cylinder on top of the springs. You've obviously, step 10 is to backing up, lubricate springs with the grease provided and nest smaller spring with larger spring and place inside bottom spring housing cylinder. Lubricate the springs with the grease provided. I like to use a brush when I'm doing it. That is likely enough if you use it sparingly, in my experience. Nest the smaller spring within the larger spring, and the entire assembly goes down into the bottom tube. Slide the top tube on top of the springs and onto the lower cylinder. Position again the spring compression tool. Compress the cylinder, which is going to be a condition where you're going to have, you're compressing it again by moving the clamp handle up, as shown in Figure 2. Secure the top cylinder to the lid bracket using the 1.5-inch long bolts and nuts with the 2 wrenches, half-inch wrenches. Again, they're assuming you're not replacing that upper lid bracket. Remove spring compression clamp tool and repeat if you have additional springs. Manually close and open the door to check for functionality. The springs provide lift assistance while opening and closing the roof hatch door. Page 2 of the installation instructions are a visual overview of what all of it looks like. Okay, simple and straightforward, but following the installation instructions is crucial, because you might say, well, wait a minute, let me just start unthreading this stuff. Stop. There's all that compression that's happening here, so you need to use the cylinder compression tool first. I've had people call me and say, I can't get that thing pushed down. I said, you won't be able to. That, for all I know, that could be over 200 pounds of tension, or 200 pounds of tension, or maybe marginally less. You know, compressing that is basically impossible, right? Or doing it safely without a compression tool. So page 2 will give you an overview of what everything looks like. Now, having said all of that, we are literally back at the prior information regarding, we'll help you find the parts that you need. We just need information, a serial number or photographs, size, composition of the lid. All of that stuff we can then advocate on your behalf with the manufacturer to make sure that we get the proper part set up. Contacting the factory is not usually, contacting the factory without all the information ultimately goes nowhere, because they do not engage in conversation when there are so many unknowns. They're going to tell you, get the information, send it to us. Or they'll probably tell you, here's the guy to call, here's our distributor. Because they get calls from people who, they ask the question, do you have a JL Industries roof hatch? No, I don't. They stop. The conversation's over. Or they get people who have built their own roof hatch, and they don't engage in those conversations because their equipment is not tested on anything other than their equipment. And I've had people buy lifting mechanisms to call me and say, hey, this doesn't work. Okay, what did you install it on? Well, I've got some 3/4 plywood and I have an attic access in my garage. Stop. No, it's not going to work because it's not engineered and tested. As a result of not having the engineering experience internally here, we're not really able to direct you on what you would use for such, you know, custom fabricated units, as we're distributors of roof hatches and parts for roof hatches. But nonetheless, this video is here to provide visual and dimensional evidence of what this item is. And finally, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the JL Industries products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Any questions on the JL Industries? This is their part number, RHD-KIT-SPR-G1, or any other JL Industries product. Please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.